Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we have a part 2 for a video I made a little bit ago going over all of my decks for OP03. If you guys watched that video, you might have noticed that 2 leaders from the set were missing, both the Arlong as well as the Big Mom, like the yellow-black one that we got from the set. And the reason is because I honestly didn't have deck lists that I was comfortable with, and I didn't want to give you guys some deck lists that I wasn't really happy with. So we're going back as a part 2 for these guys. We're also going to probably release a video pretty soon just going over old leaders and having them upgraded into OP03. Probably not every leader, but a good chunk of them, and we're going to go from there. So we're going to talk about both these leaders, and also if you're watching this at release, like an hour after this video drops on YouTube, I will be live on my Twitch doing some testing with the Big Mom deck. I did test the Arlong earlier in this week too, this past Tuesday, so if you guys want to see that on Twitch, go for it. But a lot of fun, and this leader was a lot better than I thought it was. So real quick also, if you guys want any of these deck lists, make sure to check the description and my other videos that I've been doing this. And also, sorry for a drop in quality for this one. I'm on the road again, and my headset broke, so I have to use my webcam mic. Apologies for that. This is not our normal quality. It gets better when I'm at home. So what we're going to talk about are both our leaders, and we're going to have a couple deck lists, and we're just going to talk about it. So we're going to start off with Arlong here, and he's a bit of an interesting leader. He is yellow and green. He has a Dawn ×2 when attacking for 1. Play up to 1 character at the cost of 4 or less with trigger from your hand. So it doesn't care about the color, and it doesn't, the cost is the only thing that really matters, and it having the trigger effect. And it kind of reminds us a lot of like Doflamingo in the sense that you get to play something on attack that, you get it for 1 cheaper, and that's pretty strong. The issue with this is that you have to do it from hand, which is a little bit rough, instead of top of deck, which means you kind of go -1 in hand to play the card. But I think like this is actually a very strong deck. The only other thing is that it is 4 life, which is kind of weird for a deck that's all about having cards with triggers, because inherently you're going to have 1 less chance throughout the game to get those triggers off, and that's kind of what I saw with this one immediately, and why I wasn't immediately on board. So, but I also did open up one of these alt art leaders, so I kind of was like, okay, well, I gotta try it out. I gotta see what I like about it. And generically, I just made a list, which I'm like, you know what? Let's just put every trigger that we can in here. Let's see which one's the good ones, and be like, okay, if every one of our cards in our life is a trigger, besides like some 2Ks, because we obviously need some 2Ks, and go from there. And we have like a above 60%. If 3 of the 4 cards in our life are triggers and they activate, we probably do very, very well with it. So that's kind of the idea when I made this one, and it ended up working honestly quite great. There's a lot of momentum you get from this guy, and the fact that of course you do have to play the card from your hand, but that's fine. It's a little bit easier to choose which ones you're picking because of that, instead of having like set up the top of your deck like you would have for Dofi, as well as just the fact that there are just a lot of good cards in that card pool as well. Even though there's a smaller card pool, I think it's very good. And also you still get a 7k attack, so essentially you're only paying 1 to play a 4 cost from your hand, which is kind of nice. So and you'll notice that we mostly go into the Big Mom side of this, and when we're looking at a lot of these multicolor leaders, even though you want to do like a 50-50 split between both of them, most of the time I've been finding success pretty much still just going into 1 archetype and then putting some tech cards into it, and kind of going from there. And real quick, before we keep going into it, I know a lot of people are being like, where is Nami, right? Nami's a trigger, it's a draw card, why would you not run it in this deck? And it's just not solid. It's just not solid for what we're doing, simply because we don't run a lot of East Blue cards, right? Right now, we're only running 11 of them, and Nami only looks for non-Nami ones, so it just wasn't worth it, even if it is a trigger. If it was like a 2K trigger, maybe we'd run it, but it's not, so I didn't find it very helpful for this, and we're not running it. So but I do think a lot of these triggers are really nice, especially Karubi. Karubi's probably like the best one in a lot of ways. It's just on play if your leader has East Blue type, rest up to one of your opponent's characters, and it is a trigger to play it, but also it's an effect that, let's say we want to swing for game with our Arlong and they have a Marco blocker up, just put 9 Dawn underneath there, attack, put it for 1, play the Karubi, get the rest on the Marco, and kind of go from there. So that's really good. Choose also not too bad. It's not terrible for what we're doing. KO up to one of your opponent's rested character at the cost of 4 or less. If you guys like Killer, you can also put it in here too, especially since we're not, needing the the archetype for East Blue for it. I still like Chu a little bit more, even though it's like a 4-cost 3K. It does survive a little bit more. It is a little bit more expensive to play outright, but I do like the idea of it there. So there is that, and then we also have Hotchan, which is a 2K counter, but also you get to play for free off your life, which I think is nice too. So that's kind of like our East Blue package, and the rest is mostly our just Big Bomb Pirates, which just gets a lot of value in a lot of ways. Our big kind of cards to talk about. The most important one is Charlotte Cracker. I think this card's really absurd in a lot of ways. Since we're a 4-life leader, we're almost always going to be behind on the early game, and then with this card by itself, you're able to kind of reestablish that, this evens up the matchup pretty quickly. If you're able to get just an early double attack with this, it just means that then both you guys are probably at 3 life at the same time. So this equalizes. This card exists because it is really good in this deck because it does equalize the early kind of loss we have, because we only have 4 life and can chip for damage. Also late game, this can be just something that can help you win the game by itself. And worst case, like even if you don't attack into your opponent's leader, for 1 Dawn you become a 7K if you're behind on life, which again, we're a 4-life leader. We're going to be behind on life pretty often, and it's going to be very good there. So I do like the Cracker for this one. Obviously Perospero is fantastic as well to help us find some pieces on the KO there, and just kind of everything else. Smoothie just to have more if we need to. Sometimes very rarely you can use it to get plus 2K and then get the Cracker inside the range of life totals to get there. Not very often, but can be a case. We play a lot of 2Ks in the sense of like the Struzen, which is, this can just win you the game. This can just pop like a chopper blocker or 1-drop blocker, and then you can go in, which is nice for 1 and just getting rid of a trigger in your hand. Sanji is great if you want to be able to get some potential card draw. It doesn't come up as often in this deck as other yellow decks, but it can happen. Pudding is a good 1-drop just to start the turn and find some pieces. And then Shirahoshi as well, just to get some mull, just being able to say, play it, look, draw 3, discard 2 is still kind of nice for us. There's no real other triggers that you get with this one because it's a 5-cost, so Arlong can't play it for free and anything else. But sometimes you do just need to get rid of some cards that aren't as good in your hand, especially like some Charlotte Linliuns, which can be a little bit dead late game if your opponent has 0 life, because they're always going to choose to hit their own life, which is kind of weird, but that's kind of how it works. But in general, Charlotte Linliun, the 7-drop, is really nice for this deck too. We almost always want to go first in this deck, especially since we have such an odd curve in the sense that, if we go first, that means on turn 2 we'll have 3 Dawn, and we'll be able to use our Arlong effect and kind of go from there. So being able to have that 7 for Charlotte Linliun is very good. Being able to play an 8K that also, either gives you a life or, trashes your opponent's life. This is really great. Essentially, too, like the way that you have to think about the cards in life in this game too is that you get to it's a card draw, right? It's a delayed card draw, but it is a card draw. It means you don't lose. And if you discard a card from your opponent's life, not only are you winning in the sense that you're closer for them to have 0, but also you make them discard a card, which is great too. So being able to play this on curve on turn 7 is really great, which is why we play Pudding, which is why we play Shirahoshi to dig a little bit deeper for it, and Perospero can help find it too. So last card's Punk Gibson, just generically good card. We're playing green, so why not? And then also Katakuri as our just one. It's okay. It's not fantastic. Sometimes it makes sense to play it. Sometimes you want to get rid of one of your opponent's cards. You can play it at 2 if you're really feeling it, but I never really found the time to play this. And it never just felt like amazing. If you want some other cards, this isn't, I'd say, like 100% perfect deck. I'd say like this is 90 by itself. Like if at minimum, I think this is really solid for Arlong in general. And if you want some ISOs to just have a 2K counter that can get some additional rest, go for it. If you want some other stuff here too, we can play more of like the East Blue stuff if you want to. There's ISO there. But like Craig is fine, being able to get double attack on this guy itself too, and get to trash 1 card for your hand to KO 2 cards. And then also, the only other card I'd think about is Jin. It's just like, since we're an East Blue leader, we can just play it for 4, and then we rest 2 things, which is pretty solid, being able to do this. And so like an alternative turn 7 is just like you play Jin, and then you'll have 2 Dawn to put underneath your Arlong, and then pressure something with your cards there. And then also like the other card could be something like you attack, you play Chu from your hand, which means that Jin kind of works there. The only thing is Jin doesn't have a trigger, which means it's just like diluting our cards from there. But it's honest, like it's very often like most of my games I have over 2 triggers, not unheard of to have all 4 cards being cards with trigger, and then Charlotte LinLin can help heal you and get some more in. So there's the idea. There's obviously some more cards you can be running, but I do like more of this tempo-based one of just saying, I got one thing, I play cards with trigger either from my hand or from my life, and if you can't keep up, I win. That's kind of the idea with this guy. So this has been really fun. I hope you guys test it out. I've been enjoying it, and I think I was wrong with kind of how viable it is. And I think, I don't know, we'll see if it comes out. So then we also have 2 versions of Charlotte LinLin from OP03. In general, they're just either the CP9 version or the Navy version here. They're kind of similar in a lot of ways, but there are some differences with it. So first, real quick, if you guys don't know what Big Mom does, it's a 4-life leader. It is 5k. It is yellow and black, the first one of that. Dawn times 2 when attacking and then paying 2. You may trash 1 card from your hand if you have 1 or less cards in your life area. Place up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. So you do have to discard a card from your hand for it, and it's a little bit costly for Dawn, but being able to heal 1 can be great. We don't have a lot of triggers in this deck, but just being able to say, oh, we get to heal is kind of nice there. And then also we do have pretty much everything else from here. So my idea for this deck and my idea for what would make this be better than the other decks is that you do have the part of heal, but you also get to play very, very defensively with all of these black cards. Specifically, we have like Fukuru as well as Borsalino, just really obnoxious cards that are kind of hard to get rid of. And because of that, they can get a lot of value for that. So I think that's something to consider for this. It just means like your opponent has to play really weird. But also just the fact that you do get to the late game and then you get to play your Big Mom. And honestly, that was kind of like my issue with black in this format in general, is that you have like really good like mid-game strategies. You have a lot of ways to get some destruction with like Kaku, or being able to like use Borsalino to make it difficult for your opponent to like pressure damage, especially against Red, which has a lot of cards that destroy, and being able to use these cards to get around that I think is strong. But then at the top end, we have like not Smoker, we have like, what? Kuzan, or we have like Aisho. Aisho's not bad, not saying he's bad, but what I'm saying is that like the top end just never was there. So being able to say, let's just play a black deck, play all the defense. We have Bluno as well. Bluno is really great because it can, if it gets deleted or KO'd, you get to play a Fukuru from your trash, or even a Khalifa, which means you get to cycle cards if you have dead cards in hand too. Either card's great, and just being able to get that recycle from this blocker is good in a lot of ways. And so because of that, it helps you just get a lot of advantage. It means you get to 10 Dawn relatively healthy, and then you can just play Charlotte LinLin a bunch of times and win the game from that. So that's kind of just the idea for what we want from this deck. We just want to be really defensive, and then we get to turn 10, and we play Charlotte LinLin, and then we just get momentum after that. We don't actually even focus on using our leader effect that often because it is costly and really situational, but maybe we play it like once, like late game if we need to. If we have a dead card in hand and it just means that we're out of range for losing next turn, go for it, but mostly it'd be when we're already ahead by playing these 10-drop Linlins. So that's the idea for this one, being able to be defensive with the black engine and then go into a 10-drop and kind of just turn the tide after there, because again, if we go to what we were talking about earlier, where if you look at the life gain and life loss as drawing 1 and making your opponent discard 1, this is like a +2 in card advantage, not even talking about like the differences of being able to get cards in life. So, and obviously this can only be played in a leader that has Big Mom Pirates, which is why we're not playing it at Arlong, because it's not a Big Mom Pirate. So this is a unique build in the sense that these are only cards we get to play in this leader, because this is the only yellow-black one in that sense. So other than that, we do have like a little Big Mom package just to help us find pieces. So like Charlotte Pudding can help us find 10-drop, can find Struzen, can find Perospero, and the event cards too. So we have the Ico Sovereignty, which can recover 1, and it's also 2-drop +5k, which is nice. If you have a bunch of dead cards in your hand, which you can, it helps you there. There's a Buzzcut Mochi, which I really want to play in this deck a lot more. I think like Buzzcut Mochi in this leader, with also just all of the ways that we have to reduce cost, I think Buzzcut Mochi is really good, and the only issue with it is that it's kind of difficult to kind of reason it with other cards, if that makes sense. Like we just kind of have a rough spot where we don't have the pieces we need to like I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just kind of tricky to justify finding spots for cards that minus, at least in the CP9 build. We're going to look at the Navy build in a second. So only other card we're talking about is 6 King Pistol, which is CP9 type. Counter, you may trash one card from your hand up to one of your leaders. Character gets plus 3k power during this battle. So it means like if we're playing 10-drop Mom, we're okay with discarding out, especially this is just another card that we can draw off Spandam. And then also the trigger is draw one card, then KO up to one of your opponent's character with the cost of 1 or less, which can get some good cycle if needed to. And if you're playing against something aggressive, it goes like +1, which is kind of nice. So I do like that there. But this is this build here. I think there's something here. In general, I think there's something with this leader. I think yellow has a lot of good like end game, and so being able to use black to like not lose a lot of life in the mid game means that you can maybe just win off the back of the 10-drop. And then also, here's the Navy build. I think I like this one a little bit more. I'm going to be testing both a little bit more, again, on my stream later the day of this video dropping. But the idea is pretty much the same between the two of them. We are adding another Buzzcut Mochi. The only issue with Buzzcut Mochi is that it has the trigger to play up to one character with a cost of 4 or less with trigger from your hands, which means it's a little bit tricky to justify, I think, in this deck, which this card can also be played in Arlong with just kind of the same idea that we're going to inherently be in more scenarios where we have less life than our opponent. And because of that, and also we're going to have a bunch of cards with trigger from our hand, which means that this can act as another copy of that, which is nice. So if you like to add Buzzcut Mochi into the Arlong deck, I don't think it's a bad idea. But again, like the idea that this, we could play Suru, and then for Suru and a Buzzcut Mochi for only 3 Dawn, we get to just KO something with 6 cost or less, which I think is really great. I think that's really helpful. So, and then like just the idea. So if you even want like 4-drop Kuzan, I don't think 4-drop Kuzan is terrible in this deck either. We are running like the Sakazuki as well, which can get some good value in this. It is Navy, right? That's the big thing for it. With brand new. This is the only searcher for it, but being able to play this early game means that we can get like a little +1 advantage. And then also right now, like there's so many decks that have like so many weenies that they're attacking with. Like obviously Zoro is very popular, so being able to just play cards on turn 1 and 2, help clear board after they try to attack with it, I think is valuable in its own right. So I think that's strong for this deck too, and what you're able to do with it. And again, if you're able to get to late game, we're not playing the Fukuru in this build because we just didn't have any room for it. But if we can help get to late game, play Charlotte LinLin, and then kind of go from there, I think we're in a really good spot as well. So I don't know, these are 2 decks that I'm playing. There's obviously other builds for LinLin. Some people just play only yellow, and then they just play like Fukuru and Borsalino, which I don't hate. I don't hate that build either, with the idea that these are just really good blockers to help us get into the late game, and then from there, just play our 10 drops. So if that's, seems good to you, go for it. I don't know, I like the idea of Bluno, Fukuru, and Borsalino just being really obnoxious, and then later in the game just playing our 10 drops. So maybe the CP9 build's better. I think there's a lot of synergies that you can explore in this deck. I'm not sure which ones are actually going to be worth it in the end, but I don't know. You see this leader, you see the card pool for both these, and there's just so much you can do with it, which I think is really cool from a deck building kind of standpoint. So anyways, that is going to be it for me. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check out my live streams on Twitch. You can check out the description for my link there. But I've been having a lot of fun playing these. We stream every Tuesday, Thursday at 8 a.m. PDT. So that is, 11 Eastern, I think? 9, 10, yeah, that's 11. So make sure to check those out. And if you guys have any other questions, let me know. We will be releasing another video going over older leaders with new cards from OP03. And let me know which leaders you guys are looking forward to in this set. So again, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.